Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame here. A strong reversal here off of the Sunday night lows in the previous session here. A big time push to fill the gap here as tariffs on Mexico and Canada will be postponed for 30 days, and that sent the markets filling those gaps. Bitcoin and YM leading the charge to the upside. We see that China's striking back with its own tariffs against the U.S. here, and that's kind of sent the markets back down. So a bit of a trade war here, and you can see very strong pivot extremes here over the last couple of days. With volatility increasing, yet price remaining within a relatively compressed range. So there's some significant buildup of energy here. Strong pivot highs, strong pivot lows that could open the door for the next breakout move. Volatility continues to remain high here, and if we do break back below the 59.50 zone here, 59.30, that's really going to open up a return back toward 5,700 and perhaps even lower here as this market pulls back with a looming trade war. So again, this market right now kind of building energy within this range today. The pivot extremes could be in strong early high at the after hours reopen. You have a strong overnight low. The market could stay mostly within this range throughout much of the day. It could be a fade the edges type of day with a slight upward bias. If we take a look here at the NQ, similar price action here, big time rally from the Sunday night lows, filling of the gap. And if you looked here today, strong early high after the after hours reopen, strong low overnight, and we could be mostly within range here today. We were looking for 350 to 400 points of range in the NQ for today heading into the session, and we've gotten 357.5 points already. The ES already at 82 points per day, or 82 points today, and it's been averaging 82.5. So these are already right around where you would expect them to be. And we could be looking at range-bound price action with a slight upward bias here based off the strong early pivot lows. Again, like the ES, this thing has increased in volatility here, but at the same time remains within a mostly compressed range. You have this kind of range here developing with big-time compression, and it's hugging the 21.5 level. Right now, that's a significant amount of energy. If we're to break through the upper end of the range or through the lower pivots here, it could open up a big wave of price discovery, whichever way it goes. So building some tremendous energy here is the NQ, right now stuck at the center of the range. Looking at crude oil down 2.7% here today. Big time push through the 72 level. We talked about 72s being the significant pivot in the chart. Major support was prior resistance, and now taking it out right here as we head into the RTH open here. A big time break of 72s could open up a drop back toward the 66 to 67 zone. That's right here. Could be looking at a drop right into the lower edge of the range. We've been trading, mostly around 72s with a 6-point push below it, about a 6-point push above it, and that's been about what we've seen here lately. So 72 here, big time level. A failure and a breach of that zone opens up a return back to prior support. Major support tested here in Q4. So again, any pullback into 72s could be seen as a selling opportunity as this thing rotates into the 66 to 67 zone up ahead. Now looking at gold futures, this one been very, very strong overall. A big time continuation to the upside has been seen over the last several days, and it's holding the 2800 level. We talked about before that pushing through 2800 as it did here on the transition day would open up a return, or a push rather, to 2,900 and 3,000 up above. This market continues to maintain a very bullish price discovery here and a bullish trend beyond the top of the larger range. It has broken through the top of the triangular pattern that we've talked about before, and again, that back end right here forecasted from the breakout point targets 3,000 up above. So again, this market making its way toward 2,900 and 3,000. Looking at the YM, this one here with a big time reversal in the previous session, a strong G-squat day, and we've seen G-squats virtually across the board here. The ES, the NQ, YM, RTY, Bitcoin, gold, all having these green G-squat days right there with strong reversals. That would tend to suggest strength ahead on a 1 to 5 day basis, and perhaps even farther out on a 1 to 3 week basis. Pullbacks here to the midpoints of the previous session, especially after the after hours gap open here. A big flush down to the bottom here, but that could set most of the day's range here. That could set most of the day's range. We could be trading between those two pivot extremes, range bound with a modest upward bias right now. And for the most part, if you're bullish here on a daily closing basis, bulls want to keep that previous session's midpoint bid. You don't want to see price close below that level on a daily closing basis, as it could lead to a massive failure into the tail event ahead. All right, looking at Bitcoin here, big time reversal in the previous session for Bitcoin. The 90,000 level here has been significant support. It got to about 92,000 and turned back up to close above 100,000. A massive day. This is perhaps the second largest day by range that the Bitcoin has ever seen. This was 11,420 points. You have to go all the way back to 2021 to find a day that had more range. That day was about 13,000 points. So a huge day here for Bitcoin, a massive fill of the gap, and right now range bound. That's something we talked about the previous session. These markets could be looking at a bit of digestion after the previous day's range with a slight upward bias, and we're still stuck within this 20-point trading range right here until proven otherwise. Looking at Ethereum, this one's up the most here, but also lost the most in the previous session. This one was down 30+% here at the lows. It was able to bounce back and close off the highs, or off the previous session's close, by 17 or 18%. So a decent bounce back. We've seen a little bit of a pullback here in after hours trading. That has been defended right now. It's going to take some work here for this thing to go back and fill this gap, but recovering the 2,800 level is the first step. Got to get through 2,800 to open up a return back toward 3,400 up ahead. The major pivot low here that we seen yesterday comes in at 2262, very reminiscent of the August 5th flash crash event here, which took us into 2200. Big time day down, big gap, and that day we marked it as a strong low, even if it did close below the midpoint, and eventually it became the low there. We did get one more push into it here, but that became the last low before it rallied to 4,100. So this is a very similar event right here. 2,200 been significant support. That is nails as support here, and based off this strong low here, we could be working our way back toward 4,000 over the coming months here. Last time we hit that low right there, it did take a little bit of time here to build up between 2,800 and 2,200 until we finally got the transition day here. Right now, we're already above 2,800, so we could be looking at a little bit more of a snapback. We do have an impulse move on the way down here. If we got the midpoint, which we may have gotten the midpoint already, that could give us a new super large key range to work with moving forward. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.